Hey everybody, how you doing today? This is Ben Fisher. Thank you for joining us on the Google Plus Business Spotlight today, and welcome to today's episode. Stefan is out this week, so here I am going solo. He's at the beach, he's at the shore, he's having a good time. Thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate it. Have a great time, dude. You deserve the day off. Today we're going to be talking to our guest, Ryan Hanley. And we're going to be talking a little bit about how he's transitioned from podcasts to HOAs and how he's built a tribe to build a book. And a little bit about, his new consulting companies too. So, hey, thanks for joining us today, Ryan. How you doing, buddy?
Ben, it's so great to be here, man. Appreciate it. Looking forward to this conversation. I'm as excited for it. Let's go.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we've got a lot to talk about, in this episode. By the way, everybody, just so you know, really quickly, if you could, when you're talking about the show, use the hashtag GPLUSSPOTLIGHT, and also in the comments there and in the description area, there is a click to tweet. Just go ahead and click that little button and send a little bit of a tweet to the tweetverse for us, please. All right, so let's get started about it. Talking about it. You got the whole content warfare series, basically, and you started that out as a podcast, but then you moved it over to HOAs. Why did you make the decision to convert that out to an HOA?
So content warfare started as, like you say, just a regular. I say a regular. It's actually, anyone who's tried a podcast knows that there's a significant amount of work that goes into them. But it started as just an audio-only show, and I had things that I wanted to share. I thought that the audio medium had a lot of juice to it. There was a lot that you could do. You could add a lot of value to your community, and it was great. And for 60 episodes, it was an amazing way to bring new thought leaders in front of my audience, to share my own thoughts. We did a lot of things with feedback. People would send me questions. I would answer them. Nothing that isn't done on other shows, but it's a very intimate way of sharing knowledge. When I saw what was going on with Hangouts, I actually tried doing a Hangout first and stripping the audio and turning it into a podcast over the summer of 2013 with Ronnie Bincer. Makes sense. I would try to do it with him. We were talking about Hangouts. The only problem was at that time the quality of capture, audio capture that you got on YouTube from Hangouts was still relatively low. Low quality. So sometime in the later fall, I can't remember exactly when it was, sometime in the later fall, they increased that they upgraded that connection. So all of a sudden YouTube was capturing the audio from Google Hangouts at a relatively high quality, at least a high enough quality that when the audio was stripped off of it, it sounded really good on a podcast. So it only made sense to me to make this transition because the whole thing for me starting the podcast at the beginning was intimacy. I wanted a more intimate connection with my audience that I could not get just typing. I mean, typing is great. Written articles are amazing. Short videos are a great way to connect with the audience. But there's something about the breadth of time that people spend with you in these formats that really establishes a connection. The other piece to it was the fact that there's a live audience. So what I have found, I interviewed in the first 60 episodes, say it was somewhere in about 40 people, say, because some of the episodes I do by myself. In those 40 episodes, lots of great conversations, lots of great answers, lots of great value. What I found immediately upon moving to the Google Hangout format and adding this live audience was that you were able to get insights, you were able to get thoughts, ideas out of your interviewee that you couldn't have gotten in the other format because there's no going back, right? Like if I say something stupid right now, it can't be undone. There are people watching and it is out into the world. In Skype, those things can be edited out. And the person who you're chatting with knows that, so they're a little more guarded with what they say because, or not guarded isn't the right word, it tends to be a little more boilerplate because they know no one's listening. But here, if you ask the right question to me, you could tap into something that maybe I didn't want to tell you, but now I'm on it in front of this live audience, and I have to go down that path. And I would say the conversations in this format are so much more raw and real. And it's equated to a month-over-month 108% growth from the month previous to doing Hangouts to the first month that I did Hangouts. My podcast downloads grew 108%. So that was a nice bonus.
I love the fact that you said the intimacy and insights that you get basically by doing it via Hangouts on Air versus doing it on podcasts. I mean, I think that's an excellent point. I mean, we get to communicate with not just audio, but we get to communicate with video. So we're getting all of the extra senses. We're getting mainly the visual sense. We're able to see each other's body language. And I think that's the huge differentiator when it comes from Hangouts to podcasts, is you get all of that other stimuli, which just basically brings out so much more, emotion, like you said, intimacy.
And you can't hide your reactions, right? So where on Skype, if you ask me a question I don't really want to answer, I can react physically without you seeing that reaction, give myself a second, and then respond to you with my boilerplate answer. If you ask me a question now that makes me a little uncomfortable, first you see it, the audience sees it, and I can't hide. I now have to respond, and so it adds a whole nother layer to communication. And like I said before, I have found that there's a level of honesty, and it just has a raw quality about it to the conversation, a very authentic quality to the conversation that you don't get in a faceless kind of audio-only Skype call.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. It means you have to be genuine?
Yeah, God forbid. Yeah.
So, right on, dude. No, I completely agree with you, and I'm sure that everybody out there in the audience agrees with you too. By the way, speaking of the audience, really quickly, just want to say, give a shout out to everybody that's out there. Sarah Server, thank you so much. Got your questions. We will be getting to those. Marilyn Moore, you are a rock star. You know it. Thank you. Coach G. Moore, we've got Roxanne Davenport, Lisa Engels. I think Tia Kelly's hanging in there too. Yeah, I see you, Tia. So we had Tia on from On Bounce, of course, earlier. So Ryan, I guess the next question that I'd really like to get to you about is talk a little bit about the process, because I know there is an entire process that goes behind, taking an HOA and then repurposing the heck out of it. And you're also, on top of it, you're an email marketing genius too. Come on.
I don't know about that. I don't know about an email marketing genius, but so the process. It's funny that you asked me this, because I literally just submitted an article for Social Media Examiner on this exact topic. So whenever that comes out, it usually takes a couple weeks for them to come out. But basically, the process is fairly simple. I'm gonna move through it rather quickly. I'm just going to spend a couple minutes on it, but it's much simpler than it would seem. You record the Hangout, right? The Hangout gets recorded in Skype, in YouTube. From YouTube, you're able to download the MP4 file, so the actual MP4 video file. Download that right out. I use a program called Audacity. Audacity is free for PC and Mac users, and essentially allows you to edit, package, and export your the file that you're going to submit to iTunes and Stitcher and all that. It allows you to create that file. So in Audacity, I do I have banjo music, which is the start of every one of my shows. So I start with the music. The music plays for about 20 seconds. I come in, I do an intro, any calls to action for the show. I give people the web address for the show notes, so I do a sized down, the episode maybe, some long URL based on what the title is, and I pare that down to say, like the last one was ryanhanley.com/show88. So I let people know that. Little bumper music. Now I take that MP4 file, I upload it to Audacity. Audacity automatically strips out the audio. I pop that into place. I then run the whole song of the banjo music that I only played 20 seconds of at the beginning. I run the whole 3-minute song at the end, export, I got a podcast. It's literally that easy.
Right on, man. I've used Audacity in the past. There's actually another one that I've heard, which is called Video to MP3. Literally, it's video and the number 2 MP3.com, which I've which is a free service, by the way, for everybody that's out there. And I've heard that's actually pretty good too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that do the, I have a little file converter that will do it, but the cool thing about Audacity is that you're building the podcast episode in that tool anyways, and it strips off the audio for you, so it removes the step of having to put the file through a converter because it automatically does that. So it's just one less step to have to go through, one less time you have to handle the file, and so that's what I do. But there are a lot of different ways to do it.
Right on. So I want to get to actually Sarah's question, because really it dovetails nicely into talking about the next topic I wanted to kind of breach into, which is about what happened just this Monday actually. So Sarah's question is how did you find your audience? How do you attract your followers? How are you sustaining the engagement with the growing follower numbers that you have? And what are your top 3 preferred curating and listening tools? And then I'm going to get to the question.
Okay, so those are really good questions. I'm actually going to scroll back to her questions so I can answer them all. How do I find and attract followers? So I actually, and Sarah, this is nothing against you. I actually have a hatred towards the word follower, because I think that big thing for me is the relationship side of what we're trying to do, right? Anyone who has spent any time with my content knows that first and foremost to me is making people who consume my content feel like I'm talking to them, and not in a trite way, or in a tactician kind of way, but I honestly want someone to feel like I am having a conversation with them, because I think that that's the way I learn best. People who connect with me learn that way as well. So I attract people mostly just by being, we used the word before, genuine, authentic, transparent. If I'm having an issue with something, or if I know that something's a weak point, I have no problem letting people know. Like, I suck at Facebook. You know what I mean? Like, I'm supposed to be a social media guy, content marketer. I'm awful at it. I just don't get it. And I've been on there the longest, and I can't, it just doesn't work for me. Twitter I'm okay at, LinkedIn I'm okay at, Pinterest I'm okay at, I guess. But G+, it just works, so that's where I am. And I'm honest with the fact that if you're going to work with me as a client, those other places are not for you. If you're going to watch my show, I'm going to have a Facebook person on, I'm going to talk to them as if I am the naive Facebook person that I am. I'm not going to try to pretend to be some expert at it, because I'm not. And I think that helps me become relatable and helps audience members stick, because they feel like I am part of them, which is what I try to be. I'm not here and they're here because I have a show. We're all in this together, and that's why I try to bring as many questions on as I can and interact with people as much as I can. So attracting an audience, I would use a boatload of content. It needs to be good, be transparent, honest, and genuine, and you'll start to attract people, because people can smell when you're not being real with them. How do I sustain engagement with a growing number of followers? I think that when you create content for people in the way that I just described, as if you're having a conversation with them, they never feel like they're being preached to as part of a congregation. They feel like you're milling around with them in a crowd. And that way you can connect with people on a much larger scale. Your content scales regardless of how big the size is, because every person feels like they're having an intimate moment with you regardless of how they're communicating. So this is a big reason why I shy away from corporate-y content, that very formalized, sitting in the chair type of thing. I know there's a place for that, but most of the time that pushes people away. And I think that the idea should be let them into who you are as if they were standing next to you. And there's a lot more to that idea, but at 10,000 feet, that's what it is. My 3 preferred curating and listening tools. Wow, I'm really not that good at social media. I would say Pinterest is #1 by far. I really like Pinterest for a curation tool. I actually use a Google Plus community, private community that only myself and my brand page are part of to curate content here. And I love curating content on StumbleUpon. That's probably one you don't hear very often, but I stumble a lot for content ideas. I find it to be an incredibly good way to find random things to talk about and spur ideas that maybe you didn't know were in you, or look at things from strange angles. And I stumble a lot in the architecture, photography, and space genres, and I pull a lot of really unique ways of looking at things, because like if a house is shaped in, and maybe this is a little like abstract, but you know, you like see a weird picture of a rocket ship like blasting off from Cape Canaveral, and like all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know, that fits into this idea I was over here, and then that makes a good image for your post. And because it's random, you never know what the next stumble is going to be. I found that to be a good place for inspiration, I guess, is a good way to do it. But I'd say the private community and Pinterest are my two curating tools. I don't really listen. I use Feedly for listening. Okay, so that's probably the best place. Feedly. I use Feedly. I do still believe in RSS. So I hope that answers your questions. So.
Yeah, that definitely. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, and definitely. Thank you, Ryan. Wow, man, you just packed a ton of information into like 5 minutes, dude. That's really interesting, though, that you're using StumbleUpon as a curation tool. I've never heard of it, and you know, actually, I haven't even really thought of it that way. I mean, StumbleUpon's a great reciprocal type of traffic driving mechanism. But you know, I mean, I remember the interview that we did with David Amerland, and we were talking about the Sunday Read and how he curates information literally all day long into like Google Keep, basically. Are you using something like Google Keep to keep track of everything that you find in StumbleUpon, or do you just throw that into your private community?
StumbleUpon has a tool called Lists, and I add the stumbles to lists, and then I go back to them. So I actually don't curate it out of StumbleUpon. I keep it right in StumbleUpon, and I have a photography, space images, because I like geek out hard on like the whole space, Star Wars, you know, I'm into all that kind of stuff. And the other one is architecture. Those are the three like classes that I really like StumbleUpon for. And I've just, you know, we all have to find our little things that inspire us, right? And it's not like I'm in StumbleUpon every day, but I'd say once a week I go in there and I stumble through, and you find some cool stuff and you clip it, and then like I shared, you know, some of the GIFs that I share here on Google Plus, or some of the images that I share that I just have like original. So part of her, I wasn't sure if someone asked about Google Plus or if you mentioned you were going to ask about Google Plus, but I mean, one of my biggest things in Google Plus is original content, right? The people who are really killing it on this platform are the people who are creating here, not the people that are just sharing here. And that's one of the things that makes Google Hangouts so amazing, is it's a unique creation out of this platform. And I think that text-based creations around images or GIFs are really cool too, and are what end up getting shared the most of my content are things that the only place you can find that piece of content is if you are in my if I'm in your Google Plus stream. And there's obviously drawbacks to that. People would say, oh, you don't own it, blah blah blah. But you know, it's not like I'm sharing 10,000 word resource guides here. You know, 250 to 500 word thoughts, something that hits me that I have to get out of myself, you know, to move on to the next thought, I put in here and I just let it live.
Right on. You know, I want to bring up a comment here really quick that Lisa Engel says. She says, essentially, I believe that we're moving from a me space to a we space here. And that's why she loves what you're teaching. And that kind of brings us to our next topic, and that is that, you know, you said that you hate the term follower, right?
Yeah.
And I technically have to actually agree with you 100% on that. I think we're more of a tribe, really, is what we're building here. Yeah. And you know, and that brings us to our next point, and that is you know, congratulations, Monday. You know, you reached your funding goal, right, for your book.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And now, but the other cool thing about the book though is that you built a tribe here on Google Plus, and that also write the book at the same time. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Before that, I just want to do. Dustin Stout made this for me, and he just posted on. So I want to give Lisa Engels a +1 for her amazing comment. That I couldn't agree with her more. And her comment is the reason why I hate the word follower, because Lisa comes to this show, right? Technically, she's a follower of the show, but that's an awful way to describe her. She's not a follower. Look at her amazing content. She's contributing to our conversation and adding an immense amount of value with that comment. So to consider anyone a follower, I think it just, and I know it's a small thing. It's a very small thing. It's just a word, but it transcends what we're trying to do, right? And words matter. The way that you talk about things, the way you talk about people, it affects your brain. And if you think of people as an audience, as a community, as a tribe, I think all those words are synonymous for various reasons. I think you'll have more success in your content. Okay, so had to get past that, and plus I wanted to use Dustin's little +1 image that he made for me, because I used to have a little like piece of paper that I'd hold up. So, okay, so the book.
I'm sure he's going to appreciate that.
Yeah. So the book is actually has been distilled from really 88 episodes of the Content Warfare podcast, right? My own experiences with some clients that I've moonlighted with, research, but a lot of it is 88 conversations, either me talking to the audience and being a conversation of sorts, or actual conversations with other human beings. It's those ideas that we've talked about over and over and over and over again. And when I can say I hate the word follower, I probably wouldn't have said that a year ago. I probably wouldn't have had an opinion on the term. But you have these conversations, and your mind continues to mature, and your ideas continue to change. And the Content Warfare book is really the genesis of those conversations. So a lot of people have asked me about crowdfunding, right? Why did you crowdfund? I actually got a little hate about crowdfunding when I first announced that I was going to do it, because people are like, oh, what are you, just trying to grab some money and all this other crap? And it's like, no. There are two reasons that I ain't crowdfunding this book. The first reason is idea validation. I wanted to know that people wanted to know what I wanted, what the topic of this book. I gave away almost 9% of the book for free. It's not a chapter, it's a friggin' excerpt. I mean, it's 9%. It's like almost 7,000 words. You are getting, whoo! That one, I just had a lightning strike right next to my window. So if everything goes haywire, then you know that the building is coming down. I am giving away a significant portion of the book because I want people to know what this thing is, right? I want them to get a feel for the language, for the topics, for the pace of the book, for the type of things that we're going to talk about. You know, on Publishizer platform, which is the crowdfunding platform I'm using, they call it a proposal, but really it's like your landing page content. Wow, and you can see from my image how much darker it's got as this storm has rolled in. It's like almost pitch black in my room. I wanted to give people a really deep understanding of the book because I wanted them to validate the idea. If they didn't think it was an idea worth being created, I didn't want to create it. And the book is for the people that I'm creating it for. It's not for me. This isn't something I can put on my shelf and look at and point at and say, hey, look, I wrote a book. Like, that's not the purpose of the thing. The purpose of the thing is to take all these conversations, all these thoughts, all these articles that I've read, that I've written myself, the research that I've done over time, and put that into something that people can take something away from. I want them, you know, you never read a book and it changes your life. That doesn't happen, right? You can say that it does. There are concepts in books that change people's lives, but most of the time you're making incremental changes in people's lives with the words that you use. And to just rehash 88 shows wouldn't hit anybody. So I'm paring it down to the most useful thoughts and sharing those in a way that I think can make at least incremental changes in people's lives. So that was the first reason. The second reason was audience activation, right? So the concept of audience activation is really that I want people to not only tell me that they're interested in an idea, but I want them to show me. And show me by, no one shows you better than opening up their wallet and saying, I want the hardcover. I'm willing to pay $25 for the hardcover version of this book. And what that tells me is you're ready to act. You're part of this community, and that you're now looking forward to this. You know you have it coming. There's a little bit of anticipation because it's not going to be actually delivered to people until September. You know, and people are making a psychological and monetary investment in me because they're not getting immediate gratification. You don't order the book and get it 3 days later. You're getting it in September. So for those two reasons, I did crowdfunding, and it's been an incredible success. We actually broke the record. I don't think I posted this yet, but the previous record for fully funding a book on the Publishizer platform was 23 days, and we did it in 21. So
congrats.
That is it is a testament to just the community here on Google Plus, and that I've built around the show, and how amazing these people are, and really it's been humbling in many ways, because just the outpouring of comments and stuff, and it's just been amazing, and I am proud of that. But I'm really looking forward to getting these books in people's hands, and having them have a chance to digest this thing.
You know, and one thing I think that you've just proven here is that lightning strikes, man. As it literally did during the show. I mean, but seriously, man, I call it juggling lightning, you know, when we're talking about brainstorming ideas. And the idea and what you just shared there with everybody, I think is great. And the takeaway there is that, you know, you shouldn't be afraid of the crowdfunding platform if your intentions are right. And the intentions that you had, which is A, social proof, number one. Does anybody care about my books in the first place? Oh, wait, hold on. I got to do that again, Ryan.
Yeah, I was plus one-ing that thought.
Yes. You know, so that's number one. Number two, you know, does anybody care? And then number two, you're giving out all the value as well. So, I mean, I think those are just all fantastic ideas. Like I said, man, lightning strikes, and it did on this show.
Yeah. The thing with crowdfunding is, and this is because I've had a ton of people ask me about crowdfunding since I did this, and the thing with crowdfunding is, crowdfunding does not generate an audience. It allows you to activate your audience and validate your audience. If the audience is not there, your project is not going to fund. Just because you have a good idea doesn't mean that people care, right? So you have to build the audience first. And once you have the audience, and this is the whole mantra of the book, right? Build your audience first, tell your story, win the battle for attention, right? It's audience first. You have to be part of the community first before you would do the ask, or it's never going to work. And I think crowdfunding is a perfect example of that.
Okay, call to action, everybody that's out in the audience. So if you have ever had an idea that you want to get crowdfunded, drop it in the comments, and everybody plus one it if you like the idea. You know, hey, let's give a little bit of social proof to that. Yeah. So we're running a little bit short on time here, but there's one other thing I definitely wanted to ask you about, and that is that you're going to be launching Hanley Media Lab, right? Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and share with everybody a little bit about Hanley Media Lab?
So for the last 7 years, I've been working for my wife's family's insurance agency, first as a boots-on-the-ground producer, then as the director of marketing for the last 2.5 years. And as of yesterday, July 1st, I officially went off on my own and started Hanley Media Lab. And the Murray Group, the insurance agency, became my very first client. The purpose of the company is you know, the tagline is grow your audience, grow your business. And that's really what we're doing. You know, I've said before, like, I'm not the best social media guy. I'm not the best at email. But what I am good at is helping people tell their story in the digital space. And that's what the company is going to do. I know enough people and know plenty of people here on G Plus and in other places that can handle some of the other pieces of it. But my work is going to be in helping companies tell their story and figure out what that story is and share it in a way that connects with their audience. Because once you have the audience, it transcends, right? Like, you grow an enormous audience on Google Plus, You can take that audience to Twitter. You can take it to Facebook. You can take it wherever you want. But you have to have the audience first. People have to care. And that's another reason that, this is a different topic, but I wrote a post called, or that was really tearing into the be everywhere idea, because I don't think that you can truly connect with people if you're everywhere. That's why I am unabashedly on Google Plus and really not as active anywhere else, is because this is where I chose to plant my flag and build my audience. And I'm sure that if I posted a few times about, hey, everyone, let's move, I'm moving to Twitter a little bit, I'm going to be more active on Twitter, I'm sure plenty of people would follow me, and we'd have connections.
Your tribe would move with you.
So, that's my thing with Hanley Media Lab is helping companies find what I think a lot of other agencies miss is the very first step, and that's, let's build that audience. Let's figure out how to tell your story to them and connect with them. And then all the other tactics, tricks, ads on Facebook and crap like that, like that stuff is really easy. You can pay someone to do that for you. It's the storytelling and the audience building that I think is where people miss, and that's what we're going to do.
Awesome, man. And I know there is one thing that you haven't announced yet, and so we might as well let you go ahead and announce it on the show, and that is you have something really exciting to talk about with a thesis theme, right?
Oh, yeah. So, okay. So this is, I don't even know if this is supposed to be public knowledge or not, because my partner in crime, if he's watching, I don't know if he'll be mad at me, but so changing the company, rebranding RyanHanley.com, and part of that is I'm getting a complete custom redesign in the Thesis WordPress framework. Thesis 2 is an amazing platform. There's not a lot of people that dip their toes into Thesis because it's different than Genesis and a lot of the other platforms. But I have a very good friend who is a really kind of almost savant when it comes to this thing, and we have put together a theme which we're ultimately going to end up reselling as a skin for Thesis called Authority. It's all about what does someone who is looking to establish themselves as an authority online want, right? You're looking to capture email subscriptions, people who could ultimately become part of your audience, and you're looking to highlight your best work. So instead of just here's a blog page, right? Podcasts will be their own standalone page that highlight the things that are important about a podcast, which is listening to the actual show, right? Like the PowerPress plugin just like sticks your episode into a blog post, and it almost kind of gets lost. And we're like, authorities, if you're an authority, if you're talking about a topic, you want to highlight that content. So it's I'm very excited about it. I've never done anything like this before. And I actually had Chris on my own show a few weeks ago, and we talked a lot about some of our conversations that we've had around the platform. And I will be launching it on my site next week. Soon after that, we'll be launching it to the public, as far as people can buy it and use it on their own site. I'm very excited about it. I'm proud of the way that it looks, and I think that people who are truly looking to establish themselves as authority will love the features that this allows them kind of to display their content on. So yeah, so that's that. Hopefully I'm allowed to say that, and I don't get an email from him in like a couple hours like yelling at me, because I wasn't planning on announcing that today. That's all right.
Hope we don't get you in trouble, man.
Well, that's the power of these live shows, right? You just got something out of me that I otherwise probably wouldn't have told you. So that's very good stuff. You're using my own words against.
Well, there you have it, everybody. No, seriously, but I want to thank you, Ryan, for being on the show, and I want to thank everybody out there in G+ verse for watching the G+ Spotlight this week. I think, the major takeaways that we can get from this is, embrace change, build your we tribe. And I'm just going to throw out a hashtag there, just do a Hanley. Sorry, just going to have to say it.
Yeah, that's all right.
But for everybody out there, again, thanks, Ryan. But for everybody out there, please use G+ Spotlight as your hashtag. Definitely click the tweet. Visit GPLUSSPOTLIGHT.com for the archives and the recaps of the past HOA. By the way, Stepan has been working his tail off and just uploaded, I think, about 5 or 6 recaps. It's all original content, so please do check that out. And, again, thanks for coming to the G+ Spotlight. And next week, actually, we're going to be featuring Scott Scowcroft. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the repurposing of the content that he does with Hangouts on Airs and his video work. And hey, we look forward to seeing you out there on the Plus. Look out for the blog posts. Join our emailing list. We promise not to spam you mercilessly. And let us know if you want to be on the invite list for upcoming shows. And again, hey, Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time today.
My pleasure, Ben. Thanks for having me.